This is the Golden Eagle LED-3000 light. Have you heard of it before? Or even Golden Eagle for that matter? I definitely haven't, but I'm very glad they reached out to me. Now, Golden Eagle did send this light to me for free, but they are not paying me to do a review, so all opinions are entirely my own. This light is an absolute beast, and it gives the Aputure 120D a run for its money. But is it really better than the 120D? Let's find out. So in the box, you'll get the light itself, the Golden Eagle LED-3000. You get a power cable. You get a remote control. And you get a reflector dome. The Golden Eagle LED-3000 is a 300 watt COB light. It is daylight balanced at 5600 Kelvin, and when at full intensity, it comes in at around 42,900 lux at a distance of 1 meter. Wow, that's bright as f***. Now, let's talk about the build quality. This thing is a freaking monster. It is absolutely huge and is actually quite heavy. That's because it's mostly made of metal. Things like the knobs and handles are all plastic, which makes sense from a cost savings perspective. Also adding to the weight is the fact that everything that makes this light run is all inside the internal housing of the light itself. Unlike some other lights, there is no separate power supply or control box for it. If we compare its size to the Aputure 120D, you'll notice how much bigger this thing really is. Did I forget to mention this thing is huge? Now, the design of it isn't really all that fancy, and it's not the sleekest looking light. But does that really matter? At the end of the day, a light is just a light, and it doesn't really need to look pretty to get its job done. It has a standard sized bones mount, which makes it easy to attach any other light modifiers you may already have, such as a lantern or a softbox. I was able to put my Aputure light dome on this with no problems at all. There's also an integrated umbrella mount in the bottom, so that's always a bonus. It also has a built-in fan to keep it cool, since, this thing is as bright as the sun, but it does get quite noisy. As you can hear, when I bring my microphone close to it, you can quite noticeably hear the fan. When compared to my Aputure 120D, it's quite a bit more noticeable. So if you're using this light for your main key light for your videos, make sure it's not too close to the microphone. At the back of the light is an LED panel, an on-off switch, and a dimmer knob that also lets you change modes when pressed in. It can go all the way down to 1% brightness, which is still decently bright, and it can go up or down in increments of 1%. Like I just mentioned, this knob can be pressed in to change the mode. The first mode outside of the normal one is the silent mode, where the fan does not run, but you are limited to 60% output. This is so that the light doesn't get too hot and become a hazard. Since this light is so bright and powerful, this really won't be a problem in most use cases. On top of this mode, it also has some built-in effects, which can also be cycled through by tapping or clicking in this knob again. The first effect is flash. The second effect is TV. The third effect is fire. And the fourth effect is party. The Golden Eagle LED-3000 also has 4 channels to choose from. So if you press the knob again one more time, you can then cycle between the channels 1 through 4 by just turning the dial. It also does have a remote that can control the light, but it is quite simple. It just has a power button, an up intensity button, and a down intensity button with a channel switcher on the side. It's a similar size to the Aputure remotes, but is quite a bit thicker to accommodate the 2 AAA batteries that power it. I prefer the lighter and softer feel of the Aputure remotes, but I surprisingly quite like the simplicity of Golden Eagles. So now, let's take a look at some test shots. Here's the Golden Eagle LED-3000 at 1% intensity with no softbox on it. Now, here's the light at 25% intensity. Then, here's the light at 50% intensity. And finally, here's the light at 100% intensity. Yeah, that was quite blinding. Now, let's compare some shots of the Golden Eagle LED-3000 with a softbox on it with shots of the Aputure 120D with a softbox attached to it. Now, I did my normal color corrections and color grading on both shots, so you can see if there's any difference in the LED-3000 for color accuracy. And finally, if you are interested in getting a 300 watt light, you're most likely interested in replicating sunlight. So let's take a look at a sample of just this.
Attention, baby. I can't make a move. Like a child, a star for love. I'll stay there as long as I have to. I'll cry a river of tears that flows to the sea.
In this clip here, I brought the light outside on my balcony and shone it through my window. It was at 25% intensity for this shot, and as you can see, it does a great job of replicating a bright, warm, sunlit look. Alright, so what do I like about this light? Well, first things first, it's super bright. I have other lights that I use regularly, but none of them can get quite bright enough to do specialty shots like recreating sunlight, or if I want to diffuse the light a lot to get a softer, dreamier look. Next, I love the simplicity of the light. It is just absolutely fantastic, only having one power cable to plug in and no external power supply or control box to have to fumble around with. I also like the fact that you can turn off the fan, so if you have to use it in a quieter environment like for filming an interview, you can do just that. And I absolutely love the price. You just cannot beat the price for a 300 watt light. Most other bright lights like this come in at around the $1,000 US range, so this is a huge plus here. And what don't I like about this light? Well, first, I find the bones mount to be a little bit tight and difficult to play with. When trying to attach my softbox to it, I had a bit of a hard time getting it fully locked in place and an even harder time twisting it out. But it does go in there and it is fully compatible. Next would have to be its size. Like I mentioned a few times, this thing is freaking huge. It's big, it's heavy, and it didn't come with a travel case, so it makes it a lot harder to transport. Next, the dimmer knob on the back takes forever to go up or down, but the easy solution to that is to use a remote. Holding the up or down button on the remote control changes the intensity much quicker, but it's still a hassle if the knob isn't more sensitive. And finally, there is no other option to power this light, so you can't just slap on a battery pack to power this thing. So if you are shooting on location or outdoors, you're gonna have to bring a lot of long extension cables, and you might even have to have a power generator with you. And before we close out this review, let's talk about how this light stacks up with the Aputure 120D. So both the first edition of the Aputure 120D as well as the Mark II both come in at around 30,000 lux, so they're definitely not as bright as the Golden Eagle LED-3000. So if you are looking for a brighter light that is from Aputure, you're going to be looking at the C300D. That comes in at around 45,000 lux, but that light is quite a bit pricier. Speaking of price, the Golden Eagle will actually save you a bit of money as well, coming in at around $500 US versus the $750 US of the Aputure 120D. Like I mentioned earlier, the LED-3000 is much bigger and much heavier than the Aputure 120D, and it doesn't come with a carrying case while the Aputure does, so that makes it much more portable and easier to transport, especially if you're going on location to shoot. Now, the Aputure 120D doesn't have just one cable to power it, it comes with a separate controller box that you have to fumble around with. Now, I know with the first version of the Aputure 120D, it did have two separate pieces here. It had a power brick and a controller box, so with the Mark II, they actually combined it into one, but it is still something else that you have to fumble with and worry about when you're trying to film. So, who is this light for? Well, if you're just starting out and are looking to save a bit of money and you want the brightest light possible, then this light will be for you. And even if you're not just starting out but want to save a bit of money on a very bright light, especially if you're buying multiple for production or for your set, then this light will definitely be a great choice for you. But if you want the name recognition of Aputure and the perks that might come along with it, such as great customer service and having a long lineup of extensive lights that all connect with each other, then you might want to stick with the Aputure 120D. Now, that's not to say Golden Eagle doesn't offer something similar, I've just never really heard of them before, so don't know much about their track record. But all in all, this is a great little light here, and I really am impressed by it, so I do highly recommend it. Well, there you have it. That is my review of the Golden Eagle LED-3000 light. Thank you so much, Golden Eagle, for sending the light my way to check out. If you want to know more about the light, or if you want to buy one yourself, check out the link down below in my description. And if you like this video, make sure to drop me a like down below and leave me a comment letting me know what you think of this light. Do you think it's a great alternative to the Aputure 120D, or would you rather stick with the 120D? Let me know. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you get notified every single time I drop new videos like this one. Trust me, there's lots more coming your way, you're going to want to stay tuned. As always, I'm Perri. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya!